Good morning. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the next recipient of Otsego County's recognition of an outstanding employee. All employees and department heads are invited to nominate individuals who exhibit commitment to outstanding service, who sustain a high level of productivity and a consistent quality of work, who demonstrate a high degree of initiative, and who have effective relationships with others. This process was difficult, as many nominees are worthy of this recognition. Don Ebling from Otsego County Community Services Department is one of the county employees that have gone above and beyond his position as addictions counselor. You can come on ahead there. He's been an employee since 1991 when he was first appointed as a caseworker in the Department of Social Services. He's been an addictions counselor for addiction recovery services in the Community Services Department since 1999 and exemplifies many of the qualities that make an employee valuable to an employer. He has been a key contributor to a strong foundation of addiction treatment services. He is often the first clinical staff to welcome individuals taking their first steps to recovery. His accepting, kind style provides a supportive introduction into treatment services and establishes a positive working relationship for the treatment experience. Don will have a dedicated space at the 242 Main Street Oneonta parking lot, and his name will be placed in the plaque which hangs in the entry to the main lobby of the county building. Thank you for your dedication and hard work. And here is your certificate. And is your grandson here?
And this is my grandson.
He deserves to be in the picture, I think.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Can I say?
You certainly may say all you'd like to say.
I would just like to thank the county board for this honor. I would also like to thank Susan Matt and Miguel Martinez, my supervisors at my job. And I would also like to thank my coworkers who just make the Chemical Dependencies Clinic a great place to work. Just if I could share an observation, when I started at the Chemical Dependencies Clinic in 1999, you would go through an entire year and have maybe 20 opiate addicts in the course of a year. Now, 60% of our caseload is opiate addicts. And I just hope that between the county government, the state government, and the federal government, that somehow we can find a way through intervention and education to reduce this scourge of the generation of people in their 20s. It's just tragic to see this. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to call this meeting to order. Roll call of members. Frazier? Powers?
Here.
Clark? Stammel?
Here.
Kennedy? Here. Oberacker?
Here.
Bliss?
Here.
Marietta? McCarty?
Here.
Wilbur?
Here.
Kotnick?
Here.
Gelbsman?
Here.
Carson?
Here.
Stillagros. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first order of business today will be to elect a temporary chairman. Are there any nominations from the floor? Meg?
I nominate Craig Gelbsman.
I'll second.
All in favor of Craig Gelbsman as temporary chair, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I declare Craig Gelbsman as the temporary chairman for today's board meeting.
I'd like to open this board meeting with privilege of the floor. Would anybody like to speak?
Oh, should I go first? Yep. Thank you. I'll just stand up here so people lean on. My name is Jane Sapinski. I'm the director of Cherry Valley Artworks. I just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to tell a little bit about Artworks. I'm here with two of my board members, Andy Minig and Pam Noonan. We represent the senior members in all aspects of that word. One thing I'd like to mention is we just have brought on board a new board member who's now our board president, who has a PhD in nonprofit management, which is really going to be very, very helpful to us going forward. Artworks, by definition, is dedicated to bringing the arts into our community, into supporting local artists. But I really, really want to make the point that we also strongly believe that the arts are an economic driver, particularly for a small community like Cherry Valley, which has limited resources. It's also a way to bring the community together, disparate parts of the community that, and I have a very concrete example of how we've done that. We've really succeeded in bringing the community behind us through the power of the arts. Artworks has been around for about 12 years. I'd love to just get a show of hands from anybody. Have you heard of Cherry Valley Artworks? Yeah. All right, Andy, you're our PR guy. You got to get going here.
You better raise your hand.
I've heard it all.
About 12 years ago, a group of artists, and you know, Cherry Valley has a lot of artists, got together just with the idea of supporting each other and being able to present some of their art, but it's really grown exponentially. Our first event was called A Day in Cherry Valley, where we wanted to have something that would introduce us to the community and really bring all the members of the community to be involved. We gave out, and this shows you how far back this goes, we gave out disposable cameras, and people had 24 hours to photograph their idea of Cherry Valley. They brought the cameras back the next day. A week later, we had an art show of their work. And the participation we got was absolutely amazing. I mean, we had everyone from you know, local artists, photographers, but the guy who plows my driveway, and children. It was a really, really event that really brought the community together. After that, we went on with theater productions, art shows, things that were based on the rich history of Cherry Valley. We didn't have a venue at the time, but we still managed to do an amazing amount of things. Trying to put this in a little, chronological order, which is a little difficult, but two of our major events were started around that time. One of them was the Cherry Valley Summer Sculpture Trail, which started with maybe a half a dozen local artists putting sculptures along Main Street. This year, we had over 30 artists take part from all over the world. The winner, as you pointed out before, was from South Korea. So this is something that has really taken on a huge life of its own. We've given out, we do a map of the sculpture trail. Local business advertise on the back, so they receive the benefit of the people who come through town. We gave over 800 maps this year, which is, for a small town like us, is quite amazing. I think Andy and Pam will testify that you could not go downtown this summer without seeing people wandering around with maps in their hand. The other thing that we started at that time is the Cherry Valley Kite Festival, which has been a huge, huge success. Yes, the Kite Festival, I would say we attract around 1,200 people in one day, which for a town of our size is really quite amazing. It not only brings people for the day, they come for the entire weekend. The motels are filled, they come to Cooperstown. They fill the restaurants. I mean, it is a true economic driver for our town. Let's see, how long ago did we take over the theater? About 5 years ago?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
There's a wonderful
Yes.
building in town called the Judd Foundry, which was at one time the offices for the Village of Cherry Valley. They had moved to another location, and it was standing empty. We found out, which I had never known, even after living in Cherry Valley for quite a while, that there was a theater attached to the building. We have entered into an agreement with the town of the Village of Cherry Valley for $1 a year. We have complete responsibility for the building, which is a huge undertaking. But we are basically saving a historical building, a building that's on the National Register of Historic Places. We've put on about 12 events a year, concerts. We work with musicians from the Glimmerglass the Glimmerglass Orchestra. We let local community organizations use the space. It brings a tremendous amount of people in on weekends, on concert nights, fills the restaurants. It's really become an economic driver for the town. But I think today what I really, really want to stress is the Kite Festival. The Kite Festival is, let's see, we do it on an alternating years with the sculpture trail because they're both such huge undertakings that we can't do them in the same year. But the Kite Festival has become, all I can say is the year we don't have it, I am inundated with inquiries from people of why is the Kite Festival not on this year. We have people that come from Canada, from all over the Northeast. They fill the motels, they fill the restaurants. For children, it is an amazing, amazing event. We have a children's kite building workshop. For the local community, we give any organization a table or a booth. And many of the churches, the scouts, the other organizations make a large part of their budget by what they do on that weekend with the Kite Festival. It brought publicity to the town. And one thing I should mention, and this is what I had talked about bringing the town together, is the Kite Festival got started, I don't know if any of you remember,
all due respect, we have 3 minutes, we have to keep going. I get it. Arts is important to the quality of life of this county, and we all appreciate that. And
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I get enthusiastic when I start talking about the things that
we all understand.
So let me just say, cut to the chase. We need your support for the Kite Festival. We started out getting $5,000 each time the Kite Festival was on. It went down to $2,500. The last time we received $750, which we can't do it for that. So I'm hoping that you will consider us and think about all the things I've mentioned when funding comes up. Thank you.
It's an important part of Otsego County, the arts.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, or should I say jury, my name is Robert Force. I reside at 965 Lake Street, Patchogue, New York. I'm the former owner of 921 State Highway, Right 51. It consists of 3 properties known as the Force Farm. Before I speak, I would like to present to the board, Jim Powers, 2 questions in writing. I, Robert Force, am requesting a copy of this statute of New York State law that states a resolution on full vote is no longer necessary for the transfer of county-owned properties, which was sold at the tax auction. My second question, it has been stated that it is against state law to accept payment of delinquent taxes by the treasurer up until the day of the tax auction. I, Robert Force, am requesting a copy of that statute of the law. Thank you. just so you know, there is a copy of all my taxes from 2008 to 2015 that I presented to this board 5 times, not once, 5 times, that no one looked at the information. It didn't matter that I served in 2 branches of the military. It didn't matter that my wife is disabled due to MS and forgot the June 30th tax payment deadline. It didn't matter that we had medical authorization letters from her neurologist reaffirming her lack of memory skills. It didn't matter that I had 6 surgeries since 2010 and depended on my wife to handle our financial investigations while I was in a medical rehab facility. It didn't matter that we gave the county treasurer a check for $20,600 in escrow for a tax bill that was only $16,000. I think was even less. It didn't matter that we did not owe 4 consecutive years of back taxes, nor did it matter that the county commenced instant proceedings seeking foreclosure on 3 properties in January of 2013, almost 6 months before the final due date for the 2013 taxes. It didn't matter that the county treasurer, Dan Crowell, refused to follow the county resolutions and laws to accept our late taxes plus fees up including to the day of the auction. It didn't matter that the county allowed some people to pay their back taxes after June 30th date, nor does it matter that they backdated and forged a payment receipt to meet the June 30th deadline. It didn't matter that there was a board vote, a resolution to sell our properties. There was not a board vote to sell our properties, nor to transfer our deeds. It didn't matter that the board chair, Kathy Clark, without a board vote or resolution, made a quitclaim deeds on our 3 properties. It didn't matter that we were not notified of this deed transfer, nor did it matter that we were not served an eviction notice by the county sheriff. It didn't matter that the county foreclosed 2 times on a property that was legally bought at auction in 2014, nor did it matter that the county took the property back from the new owner by resolution, then returned it to the former owner from 30 years ago, nor did it matter that the original owner only paid 10 years of back taxes prorated. You foreclosed on it twice without the new owner, the former owner knowing about it. But it did matter that the county received $45,000 for the sale of our 3 properties that was mortgage-free, worth $300,000, investments $200,000. That's $500,000. And our spending, how much in illegal fees? How much are they spending fighting me in illegal fees? It's not over. I'm still going. But it does matter that the board ignored their own laws and resolutions that created this mess. But it does matter that my wife and I have been illegally discriminated against by a board that has broken their own laws and are now wasting the taxpayers' monies. The Otsego County Treasurer and Board are responsible for this entire ordeal. None of this would have happened if they followed their own laws. We are not going away and will not stand down to collusion and corruption that has made veterans, sick, disabled, and elderly Otsego County residents homeless. How many living in hotels? I know there's some that living in the woods. Is that correct? You should be ashamed of that. We the people, on November 7th, have the right to vote in order to bring back integrity to this board. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? This thing's very daunting, but in any way, my name is Maria Agello. I'm an employee here, and I have my property taken at a tax auction, and I have resolutions here. The one that Mr. Force spoke about happened to be Mr. Barringer. He bought that property at tax auction. The board voted on it by resolution, and then the board voted again to give it back to the previous owner by resolution. It is saddened me tremendously to think that I am not worthy of a resolution. Now, I have to, one moment, I have to give you the numbers. These were all 2014. This big one, 302-201-40903. This is the resolution that transferred all the properties that were sold at that tax auction. My property, Juliana Elliott and Mr. Force's property were not on it because we were in litigation. However, all of them were on here, all of them. And that meant that by your own metrics, you needed a resolution and a full board vote to approve it. And it went through. Mr. Barringer's property was on that. Mr. Hoey's property was on it as well. Mr. Hoey's is very interesting. He went to the treasurer begging to pay back taxes. Begging, and I mean begging. He was there at that auction with us, which was one of the most traumatic experiences I've ever had in my life. To beg, to come in as a mendicant, which means beggar, to have, please, take my money, please allow me to stay in my home and not go homeless. You know, we Italians, you know what that means. Didn't hear me, didn't want to hear me, didn't care. And it didn't matter to him either, because if it's not happening to you, it's not happening. Now, Mr. Hoey, his property got sold, approved to be transferred, and lo and behold, here comes a resolution that states that prior to the auction, they realized they had a different address. Well, if it was prior to the auction, why wasn't it stopped? Why didn't Mr. Kroll stop it right then and there? Instead, it went through, and he needed another resolution to bring it back to him. So, then we have this resolution, 229-201-50805. That's Mr. Force's resolution. Now, this is the most interesting of all because it states withdrawn. Yep. Now, I'm no scholar, but withdrawn means to take back. To take back, to not do anything about it. It's canceled out, it's done. However, it wasn't done, not at all. Kathy Clark signed a quitclaim deed on it anyway. No resolution, no full board vote. Now, we have requested several times for the statute of that law that states a resolution is no longer needed to transfer properties sold at the tax auction. We were told it must be determined by legal search, legal advice. We don't need that. We need the statute of the law. Betty Schwerd, may God rest her soul, said that she was not giving it either. I mean, come on. If you have it in your possession, let us know. We're not going to stop requesting our properties back. That was my home at 104 Filburn Road in Richfield Springs. My home, not a rental property, not a farming operation, not an opportunity to make money as an employee, because I would know all about it anyway, because believe me, employees talk. They know what's going on. I am not going to say that I was quite shocked that I didn't get a resolution. Poor Mr. Force did, got withdrawn, did it anyway. I'm sorry that Mrs. Clark is not here because, quite frankly, she's the woman I want to talk to. How could you do a quitclaim deed? I was in court. I was waiting for my court date, and you did it anyway. For the record, I want an ethics review on that. I want an ethics review on the sale and transfer of the property at 104 Filburn Road, Richfield Springs, New York 13439. 75 acres and a home. I want a review of that sale to another employee without a resolution and without a board vote. Now I'm asking you respectfully, you're the legislators. Come November 7th, I know 2 will not be here. I bid you farewell. And I know 2 will be here because there's no one running against you. But for the rest of you, good luck. Be ethical. You're the legislators. And remember, this was said before, not by me. What was once legal is now immoral. And what was once illegal becomes legal. Simply because men and women in the legislature say so. Now remember, you are human beings. We are neighbors. We are all in this mess together. So good luck. See you next month.
Thank you. Yes. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm Leslie Arzetti, Executive Director of Otsego County Conservation Association. Y'all probably know me by now. Thank you for allowing me privilege of the floor, and thank you for your service in the county. I have a letter here that is signed by Otsego County Conservation Association, Otsego Land Trust, Otsego 2000, and CADE. We would just like to go on the record saying that we are in support of the funding for the Ag Implementation Specialist. Thank you for your votes for allowing us to push through finally the Ag Implementation Plan, which is really a boon for the county. I'm not going to read the whole letter. I just want to read 3 points in the letter, and then I'll enter this in for the record, and then we can email each board member a copy. There is a pressing need to hire an Ag Implementation Specialist. Ooh, that's a big word there. We must consider the tremendous opportunities associated with the creation of this position. If successful, an Ag Implementation Specialist could secure grant funding through private, state, and federal opportunities. For example, an AIS could secure grant funding through Empire State Development to work with CADE to develop a farm and food business incubator program dedicated to Otsego County farmers. Coordinate land use practices at the town level to become more ag-friendly. Towns which have had their land use regulations audited could be eligible for up to $50,000 in funding through the New York State Department of Ag and Markets. An AIS could help coordinate and develop these applications. Leverage public dollars and private investment in our agricultural sector. Recently, Larry's Custom Meats in Hartwick closed. An AIS could be an effective recruiter for a new U.S. Department of Agriculture certified meat processing facility to come to the region. And these are just a few of the things that an Ag Implementation Specialist could do. Agriculture in our county, as you well know, because most of your districts are highly ag heavy, is an important agricultural sector for us. And I think an investment in this position would really help out a lot of our farmers who may not know that they are eligible for a lot of funding, and also a lot of our towns that are eligible for funding to help make more ag-friendly things for their communities. So I'm just going to enter this into the record, and we'll email everybody a copy. Thank you.
How did you know I'd like to speak? Actually, could I speak from over here? I don't like that podium stuff. If I'm going to blast you with the foghorn, I might just as well get here where I can see everybody. So, good day to you, and thank you for having us here today and giving us a brief moment to talk.
Can you stand up so they can see?
You can't hear me?
There you go.
Okay. You know, I'm here because of Bob Force and Maria Jello and so many others at that particular tax sale. Something had gone wrong. And we've been here for 3 years now, and it's just amazing. This is actually, Maria and I were very close to the anniversary for 2 years of when we actually had to be evicted from our home. As you know, there was state police presence had been called in on us. We hadn't done anything. We were totally unarmed up there. We were harassed unbelievably by the purchaser. She was being sued at the time too for 25. This is a rental business. You sold it to another employee with a rental business, and it's just wrong. Ethically, it's been wrong. I said this for 3 years. I've been in front of you saying this. Now, I bought a property this year, my quitclaim deed. Our county attorney, I don't know where this comes from, Kathy Clark signs it. It's an insufficient document. It's missing how you took it and the date that you took it, the instrument number. So this could have been a worthless piece of junk. It took 20 days for it to get to me. I mean, you promised that when you pay up, and I paid in cash, it's going to be right there. By the time I got the corrected one and I could legally walk on that property, it was well into October. But I didn't buy the property to flip it. I didn't buy it to throw the rabbits out that were living there. I bought it to protect that property because it's next to a historic schoolhouse. And someone else had plans to put a place there, a house there, just not suitable for that. Maybe a tiny house or something like that. But back on task, what you did to these people are wrong. I work for the county. You know what I do. I'm here to represent people that are vulnerable in our county. And these people are vulnerable. You can say you sent mailings. As you know, Mrs. Kikoma, we sat in front of a judge. Not in this room, but in the other place, and there was a label over. That was a wrong address. It was a mistake, just like this document here. You see, you make mistakes too. You can quickly correct them. What about the people in the public? You're making them homeless, you're taking everything they have. This is just wrong. Now you come to us, the public, and you ask for our votes. To be frank with you, I respect some of the newer members in the board have come forward, and they've actually done something. They've talked a little bit about ethics. But there's other people that just have blandly sat by, fallen behind this, quotes, leader, like, and I don't blame you. I can see why she could be bullying and intimidating. I feel like she's been a tyrant in this, the way she took their properties without a resolution. These are the first ones that I ever know of in this county that were taken in such a manner. You break, basically, the way I see it, you broke through the ice. And it's just wrong. Thank you for your time. Do what's right. Give them back their homes and land.
Anybody else like to speak? Okay, thank you. Need a motion to approve the minutes from October.
So moved.
You're going to have to speak up, Craig.
I'm sorry, I'm reading. Motion to approve the minutes from October.
Second.
You got that? Oh, we're doing it that way. Right, gotcha. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Presentation of petitions, communications, and notices.
I have the monthly report of ATI program services rendered by Catholic Charities for the month of September. And I have a letter from New York State DOT informing us of a public information meeting in regards to the replacement of a culvert carrying over State Route 80 over Trout Brook in the town of Springfield. That public information meeting is actually Wednesday, November 1st at 7 p.m. at the Springfield Community Center, 129 County Highway 29A in Springfield Center.
No special presentations today, so we'll move on to reports of standing committees.
Yep.
Public Works. Peter, Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're coming down the home stretch for paving for highway. I've got numbers here. I will go over them just so that they're onto the, read into the minutes. We have County Highway 41, which was just finished. 39 is soon to be started, weather permitting. We have County Routes 54 East and 58, which were recently finished with their micro pave. We're waiting on County Highway 33. Again, when the weather is acceptable, we will start that. We've had some more culvert projects that we have been working on. and are in various stages of work. Today we're starting County Highway 26 and County Highway 11. We have at the Whispering Pines, there's a slope failure, which was the bank, and we will actually begin this week. There'll be some restricted traffic. There'll be a temporary traffic signals on site, and work is expected to be completed in about 3 months. I want to say thank you to our highway crew. I don't think they get enough recognition and or thank yous for the work that they've done. And going up the chain, I will also like to thank Bill Mason and Rich Brimmer for their work. This was one of the first years that we have aggressively attacked, if you will, the road conditions. I can only hope that moving forward we will continue along those lines. Under building and services, the most important thing to report back on that is we had the system, the sprinkler system at the jail evaluated and inspected, and the biggest concern there was the potential for it not working when it was needed. We have determined that that is not the case, that it is in good shape. There is a couple of minor repairs that would be needed to move along with that, and we will be addressing those moving forward. But from a liability standpoint, an issue, it is in good shape. So that was some good news there. Also under building services, I would like to just take a moment to acknowledge Shannon Prime, who was a 44-year employee for Otsego County. And again, I extend my condolences to her family. You don't get that type of service and commitment very much anymore, and I would like to point that out. We are distressed to hear of her passing. Along those lines, finishing up, we would be, Public Works will be meeting Friday, November 17th, 9 a.m. at the second floor conference room over here at the county office building. We will not be having a second Public Works meeting, much to the, I won't say surprise, but I see smiling faces from my Public Works committee there this month. So I will entertain any questions and comments.
Pete, I just wondered about the status of the highway assessment report, and has it been finalized? I think I can't speak for everyone here, but there definitely is a level of confusion amongst some of our constituents about the actual state of many of our highways. There seems to be a perception because of a lot of the work that's going on that things are great, and I think you can obviously speak to the true state of our roads, but having that report and putting it out publicly seems very important.
So yes, so to address the actually Bill and Rich and myself and even through committee have discussed when we're going to actually put the actual report out. It will be going out to each and every one of our board members to be disseminated to the public. There's a couple of things that we're just working on to get finished up. There was a couple of costings and things like that that we're also using to bring back a total picture of what that potential cost will be to get it to certain grade levels. So I will be trying to push, I guess, Bill and Rich a little bit forward to get that out to you as soon as we can. But in a nutshell, there's room for improvement when it comes to our roads. I mean, I don't think any doubt about that. And I guess the one good thing that has really come out of this, and believe me, my phone line has been rather used extensively during this paving season, and I've heard from many of my constituents, as well as those in the county, that they live on the worst section of County Road. I can unequivocally go to a point and tell them that potentially they do not. But we can also tell them what the scoring is. So it's really a valuable piece of information, Andy, and I will push to get that out to you guys. And
before year end, you would say, Pete?
Oh, definitely before, yeah. In fact, it would be good if we could, as we transition between paving and or snow removal and things of that nature, it would be good to also include in there, because actually some of the grading is going to change on these roads that are being paved. So you'll get a real up-to-date condition report. I'll go on the record as saying we'll get that to you no later than December 1st. How's that?
Great.
Okay.
Any other questions, Chair?
I would just like to ask that we take a moment of silence in remembrance of Shannon, the fact that she dedicated 44 years of service to Otsego County, and just letting her family know that we truly appreciated everything that she did.
Thank you. Intergovernmental Affairs, Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Intergovernmental Affairs, we met, and we had Lori Lowenbauer come in from Board of Elections to have approval for what we will be voting on today, the consent agenda, support and maintenance contracts for the Board of Elections equipment. We had Alan Ruffles come in from the Treasurer's Office to discuss the ongoing, facilitate discussion towards moving into a potential partnership or agreement with local banks with regards to the county's revolving loan program to obtain a full and complete financial history for people who may be hoping to participate in that loan process. Also, we did revisit one of our loans that we've been working on earlier in the year, and we revisited their information and released an additional amount of money in their grant, which brought them up to the amount that they'd originally been approved for, in good faith and good effort by the loan applicant, and Karen Sullivan helped us through that process, and I feel that we're making progress there. Next meeting is the 14th at 10:30 a.m. Jody Zagrebski from Otsego Now is going to be coming into that meeting. He's on the agenda for 10:30. He will be discussing the county revolving loan program and the potential role that Otsego Now might play in that program. And at 11 o'clock, we have Barbara Ann Hegan coming in from the Chamber of Commerce. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Meeting time and date again?
Meeting time.
Thank you.
10:30. Meeting date, 11/14.
11/14, thank you.
Any questions for the Chair?
Yeah, I do, of course. Well, first of all, I want to go back to Otsego Now and what their bylaws state about the role of the Ethics Committee. I know we're going to be having some discussion about the Ethics Committee today, but I do think, again, I still haven't heard where Otsego Now is relating on this issue. It specifically says in their bylaws that an Ethics Committee would review all the disclosure forms related to board members on Otsego Now board. My understanding that has not happened, never happened, and I raised it. I didn't bring it back up last month, but I'm going to bring it back up again for this month. And I know there isn't an answer yet, but it's since you're meeting with Jody, it would be a timely.
And also key to that, facilitating that would be having a Board of Ethics in place.
Yeah, with our county, the IDA bylaws specifically defer to the county's Board of Ethics.
So we're on the road towards putting a Board of Ethics in place. So then one of their first jobs can be to review board disclosures for Otsego now and possibly other boards that the county is involved.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I would assume maybe even our own disclosure forms as well. And actually, that's not an IGA issue, but I would just like to go on record and have the minutes specifically state, not that it really is worth the time responding to political nonsense, but there was a...
Wait.
Yeah, no, here's a very quick thing.
Are we finished with my questions?
Nope, my question is related to the community events.
Community events.
Yep, community grants. There was a vote, a statement that I voted against local hospice funding in 2016. And do you recall the nature of that vote because of a disclosure related to Representative Gelsman and his business being on the board? Do you recall the circumstances of that situation and why I voted against that specific action?
Did you vote against, we pulled the community events grants.
Right, because I called the county attorney and brought up a conflict of interest issue, which they then pulled. I'm just refreshing your memory.
Right.
Yep.
And so what?
Came back to IGA, correct?
So an IGA...
This has to do with the...
I'm just asking,
I'm
asking for clarification on the statement that was in a political mailer that I voted against.
Does anybody know anything about it?
Do you remember the circumstances? I'm just asking for clarification.
I do remember that we did have the discussion.
So what were the do you remember the clarification of why I voted against it?
I think you would be the best person to clarify why you voted against it.
Well, then I'll just say very quickly.
And I would like you to please do that quickly.
Thank you. Yeah, so I appreciate it, Meg, letting me just state very quickly that I did vote against that specific funding because of the political process that was carried out, that was flawed and unfortunately lacking full disclosure and specifically conflicts of interest, which still have been going on in 2017. So again, I'll go on record saying that our process for the community events grant program needs to be completely revamped and rethought, and transparency and accountability brought to that process.
Any other questions?
It's been a great program for a lot of organizations. It's done wonders for many as the Kite Festival, and it's a great program that we never had.
And the money is in the budget for it going forward.
Any other questions?
IGA questions? Thank you.
Human Services.
I can't hear you.
Human Services. I guess I'll yell. I'm sorry. I don't want to start yelling.
That's right. The old guys in the back here. Human Services and one young girl and a couple young women. Our Human Services meeting was on Monday, October 16th. We started by declaring the month of November of this year as Adoption Awareness Month, and you'll be asked to vote on that today. Did some budget transfers. We're requesting a Clark Fund funding for $20,000 on an ongoing basis to assist homeless population with necessary items of need, such as toiletries, towels, and items not made accessible through regular housing funds. Talked about the 2018 budget, very complex, and at DSS, as you know. Talked a little bit about the local cost per line and how, believe it or not, that's often we're not able to tease that out on every line of the budget. Talked about personnel, ongoing turnover rate, very common topic. We filled some vacancies. We unfunded a senior caseworker, which we will be asked to approve today. That was created in order to help with the succession plan, and that has been fulfilled successfully. Talked about a new unfunded mandate. Don't you love unfunded mandates? We now have to background check and fingerprint any staff at DSS that will come in contact with the IRS tax information during their workday, and there are a number of those folks. Conversations about contracting with Enterprise for Cars. That was a big chunk of the budget this year. That's pretty much been taken care of.
talked about training for future foster and adoptive parents, about a scanning system that is ongoing in terms of conversations county-wide. Lions Club has given the department a $200 donation to be used for protective services for adults' needs. Again, the kinds of things that, the small things that folks need that are not covered in the regular funding. And the heap season begins on November 13th again. And we talked about county goals quite a bit, not only the goals that were developed and have been discussed throughout the year for the department, but also goals from the strategic plan that were assigned to the Human Services Committee, and that is ongoing. Our next meeting is November 13th at 1:30 on the 3rd floor, and you're all invited.
Any questions for the chair?
Not a question, but just a comment. I'm on that committee. Gary briefly mentioned about the complexity of social services budget. And you talked about the complexities of their budget. It's enormously complex, and I just want to thank the people, and that, you know, because they do a great job. And it's very difficult. It's a lot to work with. So I think they do a great job. I just want to say that publicly.
I would like to ask all of us, those at the table and those of us here, to speak up loudly, not only so that I can hear you, but so that everybody else out there can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. I do have a question. The Lions Club, what was that doing? You got a donation?
$200 for adult protective, and it's for incidental personal things that are not, again, included in regular funding.
Great. Anybody else? Me. Fraser's not here today, so I'll be doing the public safety and legal affairs. We met on October 17th. First order was Sheriff Devlin came in. He requested approval to accept the funding of amount of $109,000 plus for State Homeland Security Program through FEMA. We did some budget transfers, and you're going to see we're going to ask for an amendment on this budget transfer because it got switched when he came to admin. The numbers were different. So we'll be taking care of that on the floor. Emergency Services came in. Victor Jones, the deputy, came in as our cleaner, was in Albany for training. Victor stated as he was working with 911, XNG, law and planning on the informational presentation scheduled Thursday, November 16th from 6 to 8 at the Milford Central School. Victor Jones reported there is a change in the American Heart Association program. The cost of CPR certifications will increase to approximately $17 a card. He anticipates a number of classes taught by emergency services will be affected. We're going to be addressing that. He's going to look into it a little bit more and see where we can help out. To us, it's more important that people get approved to CPR. It makes everybody in the whole county safer if someone gets that training. Carol McGovern, as you heard about the ATI, she presented the RFP for the ATI services, and we approved that. Public Defender Bruce Maxson came in. Bruce Maxson distributed the CAFA proposal prepared by County Attorney Ellen Kokoma. She wasn't present at the time, which includes a funding request and a bunch of changes. That conversation is continuing, and it could have an impact of our budget. It could have. There's a lot of impacts going on. Denise Oliver came in for approval to send 2 advocates to the victim advocacy training, November 7th in Huntsville, Alabama. Representative Frazier presented a letter entering the public record from the President of the Otsego County Deputy Sheriff's PBA in support of switching vendors from outfit of the Sheriff's Office to outfit the Sheriff's Office patrol vehicles. Rob O'Brien came in to discuss the sale of a county-owned property. Discussed a little bit on the moving forward with your 3 extra towers. Penny came in on an update on the probation 2 position, stating recruitment efforts have been unsuccessful. The residency waiver is in effect, and we're looking forward to see what comes back next month. It's not completely unsuccessful. We're just looking for a broader scope of applicants. We do have applicants, but we were just looking for maybe a broader scope. I guess I stated initiative to take control over animal population. I brought up an idea of our of a countywide spay and neuter program, not necessarily particular to one area in the county. It would be throughout the county. So we're working through that with in budget and in our strategic plan and obviously public safety. Our next meeting is Wednesday, November 15th, 9:30 in the second floor conference room. As Ed would say, I'd attempt to answer any questions that anyone may have. Sorry.
The 3 additional towers that we need, where are we at with that?
Moving forward, Rob seems to get a good handle on it, and we obviously did all the funding.
But we picked the locations where they're.
They have the locations. They do have the locations. That's about all it reported. It's about.
Are we close to RFPing that out?
He didn't bring that up.
I
They're
understand
split.
we are.
What?
My understanding.
We are, but he didn't talk about that in the last meeting. There's still some stuff that he has to go over before he feels comfortable on
Yeah, great. As I remember, on 2 occasions in the Budget Committee, we discussed a countywide spay and neuter program, and at both those times, the majority of the Budget Committee seemed to be against it. What was being discussed was centered on SAS. Can you tell me how the one you suddenly came up with public safety is different?
I just said we need to talk about the spay and neuter program.
Well, it was my understanding that we talked about it quite a bit.
Well, we talked about one organization. That's what your proposal was. I also made a proposal that we do it countywide, and that people from Unadilla or people from the Richfield Springs don't have to drive their animals just down to one place in the county. I think that we need to address it. There's an issue, and it's just one thing that we can look at putting into the budget.
Did you know that you had suggested that we should hopefully have volunteers and other people take this up, and the next day in the paper, there was an article about a young woman who was doing just that.
Someone's taking control of it themselves, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. And in fact, they called me, they're looking for a space in Oneonta. I know that because they called me, they're looking for a space. So it was great. Yeah. And there's other people that come down in the city that, where my plant is, there's a lot of cats, and they come down and they've been taking one, as they can catch them one at a time, and funding it themselves. So there is an issue. But that's what brought it up. It was a family friend that's doing that, so that's what made me think about a spay and neuter program. Spay and neuter program is important. Whether we can fund it or not at this point this year, I don't know, but at least we're having the discussion. I know there was another.
I was just
Sorry.
I was just going to comment on the tower RFP. I don't know how we can go forward with an RFP before the money's approved in the budget. So I think we have to wait for that first. But I think it's close to.
Yeah.
We're not expecting any delays, that's all.
No.
No, it doesn't seem.
As long as the funding's in the budget.
I was just wondering, how, with this conversation about spay and neuter program, what kind of details do you have from SAS on their spay and neuter program?
Well, they said that when Gary, we asked him to reach out, and they said they put it on the backside from prior years because of the expense.
Yeah.
And so we're having this conversation. It's important. Any other questions for me? Thank you. Representative Bliss, Health and Education.
Yes, we met down at Meadows as usual, discussed a lot of staff training, budget transfers, discussed the budget. That took a fair amount of time. We filled some vacancies, particularly in OFA. We talked about more space being needed in Elm Park, church location, social services. We may need, when we redo our lease, to increase our footprint there, and it looks like that's going to be able to be done. We had a request to increase funding for the Family Stabilization Program, which we approved, and that resolution's in your packet today. We got an update from the coroner's office on the mobile morgue. We discussed the PACE program a little bit, and that's not in our committee. Talked about the ag implementation specialist. We've heard that the funding may have been withdrawn for that from the budget, so we lobbied to get it replaced, and told it has been replaced. We really need to fund that program. I was part of the study that was done back in the 90s, and which never went anywhere, and now that I'm in a position to really push that, I'm going to continue to do so. So,
thank you, Mr. Galvin. We met on October 16th. Karen had a request to approve to accept a grant from FEMA pre-disaster mitigation in the amount of $150,000. 25% of that is in-kind services, which is $37,500. We approved that. We approved a transfer for $320. We approved going out for RFP for for electronics in 2018. We also gave approval to an RFP for additional work at the Onan transfer station. Apparently there's the pavement's got some drainage problem and potholes, and so that's moving forward. Karen gave a solid waste report. It's amazing. Last year we got rid of 400 tons of recyclables, and it's been almost, I don't know if it's been a year or so, but the mattresses, we shipped out 1,353 mattresses, which really to me is amazing that so many mattresses. Jordan Clements was in and gave a report. Wanted to extend his thanks to those who attended the farm tour. From what I hear, the ones that went said it was very well organized and you had a good meal. Gave a report on the hydro seeding. Leslie gave me a letter about the increase to the soil and water budget. I passed that along to the board members. Just so you know, next year the farm tour is they are going to have the farm tour, so if you want to sign up early. Karen stated that the northern transfer station opened on schedule. The stop signs are posted, and there is some issues up there with the recycling bins. It was put in there. We are working on some changes to improve that area and possibly relocating them. And we also, Dan Sullivan visited in and we talked PACE financing. There is a local law, to approve a local law that it's going to be presented today, I guess, and will be voted on next month. And Craig mentioned the natural gas meeting trucks with the DOT and New York State Police. XNG is in Milford on 16th from 6 to 8. We are discussing looking at the tip fee and the user fee for next year. We'll have to go out for bid next year for solid waste and recyclables. This morning we also had a meeting to approve $427,000 for the improvements down in Southern Transfer Station. And we meet again on November 13th at 9:30 in the Meadows.
Any questions?
Yeah, I just want to thank your committee for taking up the PACE resolution and adopting that. The Oneonta Town Board approved a resolution last year urging the county to move forward with this program, so they'll be very happy to see that, especially if it's approved by the full board, obviously. We had some initial discussions last year in IGA about it, but I think it's a better fit for your committee and don't really care how it gets to the full board. I'm just happy to see it there.
So is this where you ask questions about PACE?
Who do you want to ask?
Here.
I thought Dan Sullivan came in a moment ago.
He's over there.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, it's fine. Go ahead.
So we were supposed to give you questions, and you were supposed to get answers.
Right, I got no emails with questions and accepted at the very beginning.
I gave you two at the meeting. Did you get answers?
I don't remember the question.
Okay, so the questions were this, and I did ask my banker, that if you went through with this program, would that constitute a first lien on your mortgage? Would that nullify the mortgage you have with the bank? And he said, absolutely. If someone did this, we'd call back their mortgage right then. So I have no problem with this, but I think somewhere in there it has to say that you have to talk to this person's banker and make sure that they understand this is going on and that this constitutes a first lien on their property. Secondly, I asked you if the net metering changes that are coming up through the state and federal governments went into effect, would this change this program?
Well, I can guess. I mean, we can ask Dan for sure, but I can make a pretty educated guess on that second one.
Yep. So it sounds nice, and I'd like to support it, unless you put something in there that says we're going to talk to this company's bank, make sure they understand this is going on, that they're no longer the first person to collect money if this company goes belly up, but the county and the state are. I think that's, unless that's in there.
The second question suggests, those possible new regulations would certainly change the cost of the project, which would be a different number that was looking for a loan. And to me, as far as I can tell, that would be the only difference. It might be more expensive and therefore out of reach of some people. Who knows?
I was invited to Shenango Links meeting, and they talked about some of these things. And there was a young man, and I raised these questions, and he said, "This is no problem. For 20 years, you're cash flow positive." And I said, "You've not been in business. You're barely 20 years old yourself." I said, "If you've been in business a long time, you know that there are pitfalls in business. 20 years, to project 20 years is a long time." So I would hate to see someone sign up for this, and then their bank finds out and says, "Guess what? Now you can pay us back to $400,000 or whatever it is that you owe us. We're not going to be the second mortgage holder."
Well, to answer the first question, I would ask Dan anyway. So,
Hold on. Gary, can I just make one quick clarification? Just going back to what we talked about in SWEC, is that the local law allows us to then move forward with establishing the municipal agreement. Mm-hmm. And that, to Jim's point, that would be, and Dan can correct me, but the municipal agreement would be, because even Meg, we had talked about issues in terms of, do we want to restrict how much money they can borrow in terms of financing the projects? I think that Jim's point would be in the municipal agreement. Would that Dan, is that correct?
You put that in your membership request. You say that you're going to put these modifications. You're putting these in your membership request, and then the municipal agreement is going up, you have it in there.
So Jim's concern could be in the agreement, the membership agreement, and it would be in the municipal agreement.
Before the public hearing or after? Does it matter?
The local law just lets us move forward. Yeah.
The municipal agreement is where it's right. So just for comfort of him on this part of it.
Well, I just don't want to see some business get burnt. They do this.
I understand exactly what you're saying. So, any other questions?
Ellen has something.
Oh.
Yeah, I just want to say on the local law that we passed, in order to be part of the program, we basically can't change anything in the local law, is my understanding. Our opportunity to put our own criteria are later. So we can't do that in this local law because they manage the programs of many other counties and maybe towns and villages, I don't know. But there is flexibility in here for our county to put in criteria for the application, and one of them certainly could be that there is notification to the borrower's bank about what's going on.
Go ahead.
The solar array is working now, and we're making money instead of paying for it.
No, we never paid for it.
We never paid for it, but the meter was back.
They would like us to.
We got a $20,000 bill for the electric that we generated, but now it's going the other way, so we're good with that.
We put $40,000 in the budget for next year of savings. So
I don't use the Northern Transfer Station because I live in Oneonta, but I've watched that renovation project come through SWEC, and it was incredibly complex, lots of moving parts, lots of very big and sometimes not interconnected moving parts, lots of possible pitfalls, And Karen brought it in on time and on budget, and I just want to say I was impressed. Thank you.
Keith, back to your meeting in Milford. Who's the
Hey, Lenny,
host?
can I, because Dan wants to talk about the pace, right? Can you, before we move off that subject, I didn't.
I just, who's the host for the meeting in Milford? The county's hosting it?
Yeah.
And what time and where was it?
It's at 6 o'clock, 6 to 8 at the Milford Auditorium.
The school?
Yeah, sorry about that. This has to still do with the, go ahead.
So for PACE, two kind of categories of questions which I can address you, Dan. The main one is the tax cap. The materials that were handed out mentioned that their council, meaning PACE's council, doesn't think this counts towards the tax cap, which is good to know, but we need the state of New York to tell us that. And the reason that's important is this is absolutely a worthy thing to consider. But we could be put in a position related to the tax cap that is either we have that or some other essential service, whether it's filling potholes or providing services to abused children. When we can't get the state saying that this doesn't count towards the tax cap, that could potentially come in conflict. And if they don't have the contacts at the state, which I presume they do, but I'm happy to try and link and get that confirmed in the interim if this passes today, between now and, well, the hearing passes today, and between now and this passes, I'm willing to invest time to help clarify that point. And then the other two are around what happens if this entity isn't able to pay its taxes, which is a small risk. I agree with the work that was there. It's not a very significant risk, but two things we should clarify. I mean, we're different from a town on this because basically the way this whole thing works is if it's out on the tax bill and it goes uncollected, the county is becoming the collection agency for this, so we would be the ones left holding the bag. Again, a very small risk. These types of entities are not typically going that distance in terms of taxes not paid. So they have a reserve, which I think is a good mitigating factor, but there's language, at least in the materials that I saw, that says we have to show that the county at least made a good effort, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but made a good effort to recover those funds. And then if we fail to recover those funds through our good efforts, then there's a reserve that we can be made whole out of. One issue there, and I really think it'll just be a point of clarification, but in Otsego County, we offer twice the amount of time of most other counties to recover and pay their taxes. Most are around 2.5 years, and that's what state law says, but we offer 5 years. And the intent there is people who intend to pay their taxes, but have a payment issue, a health issue, something like that, allows them time to catch up. Could ostensibly, and I don't think it's the case, but I just want to make sure we get it clear, could they come back to us and say, you can't recover from that reserve that they have because we didn't make our best effort. We allowed too long of a time for those taxes to go overdue. And I think that's easily resolvable, but we should pin that down. And then the third factor is bankruptcy. If an entity goes bankrupt, over those years, we have made PACE whole on these payments. It definitely accounts for the foreclosure process in the materials I saw, but it doesn't talk about what we would do in the case of a bankruptcy. I think those are all resolvable issues. I'd recommend going forward with the hearing, but I would hold off on a yes vote on a very worthy project until we can pin those three things down. Thank you. I'm ready to communicate to the extent that the state will give us an answer on the tax cap. I'm ready to invest some time in it and the others. I think that's just a matter of working with Ellen and with Dan.
Thank you. You're good, Andrew? Any other questions? Okay, administration. Me again. We met on October 20th. First order was our Bond and Dealing Company. They do our financial audit documents. It was nice to see them. They're new this year. The Treasurer's Office have done a terrific job. Mike Hutchison, who does our unallocated insurance, was in to present the program and generally give us always not so great news on hikes, but it was minimal, and he's still going out there to search for some more premium projections for 2018. We also presented us with an award for excellence. Risk management excellence. Thank you very much. That wasn't in the minutes, but which is big for us on when we go to when insurance companies look at us and how we're doing. Martha Quackenbush, services. Yes, Martha Quackenbush requests approval for rehabilitation service, increased funding due to additional state aid. We did that. For elections, you guys heard from IGA. Eva Bullis was already talked about. Brian Picorni came in, requested permission to purchase, you'll see in the resolution, computers. At the end of the year here, we talked about a past due bill that's been hanging out there that we're going to try and resolve. We talked about the Meadows building that was installed by a former vendor that didn't do a good job on another part that they were doing for us in the Meadows. Kathy DeLong comes once a year to us on the Youth Bureau. She announced her retirement effective October 30th. She's done a great job, and reappointed her effective November 1st. Has to do with retirement issue. Penny came in, and you'll see we'll be doing asking for a vote for moving forward a public, a public hearing on our nepotism that we passed in admin. So we'll be asking for that vote today. We discussed briefly on this ongoing conducting the salary study. We're looking, we're still going to go out there. We had someone come back to us out of the blue that said they would do the study. Penny Gentile and Andrew Trombley are going to reach out to them and see how they're going to do it and what their ability is to do. They have done work for us in the past. Dan Crowell discusses sheriff deputies and co-pay changes. Purchasing. Year to date, we've done 1,534 requisitions, 19 of them pending in the system, which I understand is very good. So that's good for our department heads. And we've done 1,440 purchase orders. Andrew also said that his county executive came forward saying that they'd hold the line for 3 years on our purchasing contract of $30,000 a year, which we voted on, and you'll see in the resolution today, which was great, I think. Actually, the governor is up in Otsego County today presenting Otsego County, I think it's $345,000 because they joined their purchasing program. The reason they got money on the government efficiency side was because they had a full purchasing department consolidated within Onondaga County, and their annual payment is $50,000 a year. Obviously, Highway has done a great job. I think that the roads will always need to be improved forever and ever. But I am telling you that when I started 4 years ago, the conversation was much different. We were looking for money. We increased substantially the amount of money we put in the roads this year, and and thanks to the Treasurer's Office and the Budget Committee and all you guys, we're allocating the same amount of money that we did in 17 and 18. So we are denting it, and it's better. Will it ever be great? I have no idea. You know, my road and my has potholes. It doesn't bother me. It keeps people slow. The person across the street wants it fixed. I don't know. So. As you'll see, there's been the Treasurer's Office and the Budget Committee and admin have been working on putting together the fleet management. There's a resolution to purchase cars. We had in the budget up to 11 cars. We are purchasing 25. The sheriff was asking for 7. We're actually put in there for 9, which made him happy, which is nice. I think he was kind of taken back when he came to Budget Committee and thinking that they would have to reduce vehicles. And he's been very great. He's been great with Enterprise and great with the Treasurer's Office on how we're going to facilitate this. Carol Montgomery came in for some budget transfers. And we'll be meeting Tuesday, November 21st at 9:30 a.m. in the county office building. And I'd love to have more people show up, some representatives show up. You're on the committee. You have questions?
Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I have a question because I'm on the
That's okay.
The organization that reached out to Andrew Trombley regarding the salary study, was that a phone call? Hey, I've got an idea. Was that something in writing? And what's the process?
It was somebody who saw it late, and they have done work for us in the past, and that's how they saw it. Okay. It was just a phone call. He asked us, I think, to plan to look into. We're going to look into it. Yeah. So I haven't heard anything from it. That was a week ago, so I haven't heard anything from it.
So there's nothing since then.
Not from Andrew, no.
Okay.
But we do have a different plan on salary study. What Penny did in their office to do the probation too was terrific. She went around to each county and gave us an idea, and you all saw that. So it potentially could be done in-house. Potentially some of it could be done in-house, but
I agree.
we'll, you know, and I think they did a great job. With not a lot of work.
I'm just pushing this because I know PRGS.
I understand. We still have money in the budget for it, so we're moving.
PRGS is going to work on this next year since we don't do department head evaluations.
Yep,
It's
perfect.
It's an off year.
I get it.
And I just hate to get behind it.
It's behind already. You know, what are we going to do? No one wants to do it. Any other questions?
I think this is partially to Carol. I just wondered the board disclosure forms, the forms that we collect and that Carol had talked a couple months ago in terms of disclosing conflicts of interest and business interests. Yeah, it's under admin. I just wondered if we've collected all those forms. You had mentioned, Carol had mentioned some people are still outstanding.
Unfortunately, I don't have that information in front of me. I
Okay.
can get you that information. And they go out annually, so the next round will go out in January.
And just a quick clarification, you had mentioned before, what happens to those forms? They're just filed in our office. Any other action taken on those forms?
Not that I'm aware of.
So no one's reviewing those disclosure forms?
We do not have an ethics board.
Okay. So these are disclosure forms that talk about conflicts of interest, business relationships, but no one within Otsego County government has looked at those forms or reviewed those forms?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
They were reviewed by the state. Someone was that the Bonadine? Was that the treasurer's? Who was that? It was during the DSS audit, right? Came down. So they have from the state had reviewed them. I know
that wasn't this year.
Yep, a couple years ago. I just remember.
So a couple of years ago, the state reviewed them, but no one within our legal department or our.
She answered that. I just want to tell you.
Okay, that's great. That was my question.
Anything else?
I just had a question. Are we going to talk strategic planning implementation? Are we going to hear from that committee today?
Yeah, I got it in here.
Okay, great. Great, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, on to special committees. Negotiations. Nothing, right?
We have coming up negotiations with the, I believe it would be for the jail, the officers for the jail, as opposed to road patrol.
You're on it, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean, there is a schedule that, we've got a letter that we will be entering into negotiations is where I wanted to go. Thank you.
That's okay. Performance, review, and goal setting. Representative Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met October 10th. We have an executive session, and we'll be meeting again on November 7th.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions?
11:30.
Government efficiency. We met on October 10th.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I just want to clarify, the purpose of our meeting is to review personnel, so that's why it's executive session, entire meeting. It's not like we're reviewing the performance and goals of individual department heads. We met for several hours, but obviously that's all confidential, and that's why it's executive session.
Great. Thank you for clarifying.
The entire meeting.
Thank you for clarifying that. Anybody else? Government Efficiency Committee met on October 10th. Representative Schoengross continued discussion on time clocks and find out what the departments feel. Penny Gentile distribute and discuss a tracking employee time and attendance survey to be sent out to department heads. The committee, along with Penny and Dan and Brian, discussed the following information. Otsego Manor always had them. Is this negotiable? These are some of the questions they're asking, but I know the Meadows had them. From Kay had brought that up. Is this negotiable with the union? Brian Piccone, potential issues with the system would be the same staff do not report to that office in the morning and the end of the day, meaning they're out and about, which people understand. And we'll need to get vendors in to do some demos, which we're looking forward to doing. Brian Piccone is going to set up some meetings. The current system is not efficient, and we're contacting our purchasing department regarding their time clock system, which Mr. Piccone already did. Survey. And that's about all. It's just about the time clocks, one of the government efficiencies. So, thank you, Mr. Any questions?
So on the time clocks, I just want the general public to know, and the rest of the board, that if you're not on budget committee, we did fill that line item with $70,000, but I'm glad to hear that IGA is going to do some more homework and finding out what was actually going to work for Otsego County. Because right now there's a potential that we would be committed to funds about $70,000 a year to this line item, and I think there's some other options that need to be explored.
Oh yeah, and we'll definitely do that. It's just a number at this point, so we can, whether we can even budget, you know, still have some budgeting to do.
Correct.
Just time.
Biometrics.
That's one of them.
So just to clarify, it's more than just time clock, it's overall enhanced security.
Yes, it's security, it's much more than that, exactly.
Much more than
It's
that.
just a term that we all know what it means,
Right,
but it means a whole
right.
lot more than it says.
It's kind of an old term, actually, at this point. Any other questions for moving forward? I guess I could take this time to go over a little bit the strategic plan. It's not on our special committees, but we met on October 20th. The committee continued discussion of the county administrator, manager, executive, discussed the upcoming meeting with Schoharie County, October 26th. I'd like to say that Ed, Kathy, and I, and Gary Kudnick met with Bill Cherry. It was very informative, I thought. Obviously, just one side. We met with, you know, he's the treasurer, and 2 years ago they put this puts this together, and we'll be discussing that in our next strategic plan on comments from Mr. Cherry. We spent about 2 hours, I'd say about 2 hours.
He gave us a really good list of problems to avoid, mistakes to avoid.
Without speaking for Bill, there was, and he did say you should talk to other people inside that government, you should talk to department heads, and he was very, very upfront. There definitely is a transition period of learning. Some of it, we'll talk about a strategic plan. It was a good meeting. It was enlightening because I had never talked to him about it. I think we're planning on hopefully setting up some other meetings in surrounding counties. We have Delaware County, who I have talked to, who has not set up a county manager for the particular Shenango County. So we'll see. We're going to get all facets of this in front of the strategic plan and move forward. What's nice about the strategic plan is that we're doing what was asked of us, and we're moving something. And it's been good. It's been a great conversation. Yep. Go ahead.
I would like to recommend to the committee that in addition to communicating and learning about local surrounding counties, you talk to some of the counties that have done this perhaps for a number of years to learn their experiences, particularly ones that are similar in population and geographic, rural rather than urban, but not to limit yourselves to our immediate neighbors.
Yes, absolutely.
I guess I have some concerns about what is being said publicly. Again, at a current debate, my opponent, Mr. Walker, stated directly that hearing from County Chair Kathy Clark that there's no value in the county manager position. He said this in a public forum that was recorded.
So,
My question is, for that kind of information to be stated in a public forum coming from the county chair should we, I mean, what are we saying here outside of, that seems to be outside the committee process. Why is that kind of conclusion being drawn and stated publicly?
I haven't heard that, so I have no idea.
Well, it was recorded. When the recording is posted, I'll send it to you so you can hear it. But once you see the evidence, you reserve an answer until you see that evidence of that statement.
I don't know what was that?
The statement was that there's no value in a county manager, that was what was learned from that meeting with Bill Cherry. Was that your conclusion going to that meeting?
That's the conclusion from that meeting?
That was the conclusion that was related in a public forum on Monday by this individual who is running for public office here.
My conclusion will ultimately be what my constituents want, what's best for the county. I just listened. I didn't draw a conclusion. It's all really information. But you can draw a conclusion, and so can Gary.
Well, right. So
go ahead, Mike. What can I do?
Well, I was thinking that perhaps a good time to draw a conclusion would be once the findings of that visit up to Schoharie County have been presented at the next strategic plan committee meeting, we would be privy to all of the people's ideas, and we can decide for ourselves and contribute to the group what our feelings are about a county manager.
And you were all, everybody was invited to go. I went, you were invited to go and couldn't, and you can be.
I have no problem with waiting to the committee meeting. I think that I'm just raising it to the members of strategic planning implementation that this is the direct messaging being set out there, directly connected back to County Chair Kathy Clark.
You could have gone to the meeting, you can draw your own conclusions.
I'm not drawing any conclusions.
Beyond that, that's a private meeting beyond the control of the board. Every member of this board has the right to voice their opinion, whether you agree with it or whether I agree with it or not. I'm sure that you've voiced opinions at these meetings that the chair may not agree with, and it is what it is.
And you mean like voting a new chair, right? I mean, that would be my
No,
opinion.
I said it is what it is. It's a political meeting, obviously, and it's beyond the control.
Okay.
That's essentially what I was going to say. The committees at this point drawing conclusions. If any individuals have drawn conclusions and told them on and passed them on, it's not our responsibility. I'm sure that when the committee has finished their study, they will bring it to the board and a conclusion will be made. And until that point, it's just each individual. And you cannot control any of those from speaking out. And you know, sometimes people have misinformation.
I'm sorry, Gary.
It's all right, go ahead.
Okay. Gary?
I'm a little confused. What I heard Andrew say was that the statement had to do with the summary of the meeting being that Bill Cherry said that, the county manager was not worth it. And we're talking about what our own opinions about whether the county, those are two different things. So I think we should really focus on what you said rather than what it became.
Yeah, that's all. I was just asking for clarification.
It was unclear to me
Hold on a
that
second,
Bill
ma'am.
Cherry was speaking.
Hold on a second. Go ahead, Len. Just hold that thought. Sorry.
So this is a very important issue. And when the strategic plan committee was implemented, I thought that they were looking at the strategic plan in its entirety and then handing off to the different committees the work that needed to be done. And so I guess I'm just a little confused that the strategic plan committee is now following the county manager / executive, whatever it becomes, item through its process, and that not maybe government efficiency or IGA, who is a standing committee, wasn't doing that. So I just would like some clarification on why we're going down this path rather than
just like,
I mean, Meg, you're chairing government efficiency. It seems like that would be a
Actually,
kind of
yeah, government efficiency is great.
Oh, sorry.
But
You're right.
But
sorry,
I'm on
you're
both.
right.
So it's a committee, and I
It
think,
seemed like there'd be some synergy in
I think
that.
both Andrews can answer this, and the people on the committee was, we were going to do as much research as possible and then see where that falls in, what that entails. And we're just doing research so people have all sides of what we've, you know, they come to the meeting, he puts in his point of view, I put in my point of what we see, and then we take that, we compile it, and at that point, because we can't move anything out of the strategic plan, we're just picking points out of the strategic plan, doing as much due diligence as we can to get the information, and then pushing it forward. We will be doing that. That will happen. That's Andrew and I. That's the way we.
Yeah,
Because we had many meetings on how we're going to pull it out of here. What are we going to do with it? We had a lot of discussion on that because it is important.
Right.
Is that answer your question?
Well, so then you're going to say that you're going to finalize it. So you're going to follow this.
No,
issue
we're going to
up.
give the information. We're
Right.
giving the information. We're gathering the information. We're not finalizing saying yes or no. That's not the way any of us coming to.
And I'm fine with that, gathering information. But what
Similar
if,
to-
like Dan and I, all of a sudden next year we're on IGA or government efficiency? We didn't get a chance to go and gather all the information.
So the strategic plan is going to make a recommendation. I believe that where we feel that particular issue falls in, similar to, which has made it easier, was the burn house. That came out. That was a need. That was in a strategic plan. We put it into public safety.
Correct.
Public safety moved it forward, so similar to that. And now we're funding for $500,000 a new facility down in this year's budget at this point.
So following that model.
Following that model, and that's what we're doing. We just started on this part of it, so it was our first meeting. Sure. Lots of discussion. I just want to go to Meg first. She had a comment there. Sorry.
Oh, well, Gary provided a little bit of clarity for me. I was led to believe that Kathy had said that there was no value in a strategic plan. But if that quote actually came from Mr. Cherry, that would be a different sort of a flavor.
Yeah, no, Gary, it was a comment that basically was related by the county chair from Bill Cherry to the.
That's all hearsay right now. Just so you know, that's all hearsay. And I don't.
It wasn't a direct.
You're just bringing up stuff that's absolutely none of us have.
It wasn't really a direct quote from Kathy Clark.
No, I mean, it's an issue of concern for, I think, for our board.
I look forward to our next meeting.
I just want to say, I'm on the strategic plan, and we talked about broadband going to Public Works, which I brought up the broadband issue to Public Works twice, and, you know, they're aware of it. You know, we've been working on it, so it's not like it's just that committee working on that plan. We've reached out to other committees to move it ahead, so that's all I
Yeah. Andrew, you can speak to that. There's no.
Yeah. No, I think, and Len, you're right. I think the idea is that they would be passing off projects to the appropriate committees. But I think the strategic plan committee also has a role in sort of assessing progress, following up on the projects.
Absolutely.
To,
yep.
Make sure
they get
goals.
make sure they get going. Yeah. Yeah. But it's nice to see that the strategic plan is moving something. We have moved some things, something in the budget. Hopefully it makes it through. But we are all working pretty hard at it. A lot of time. Any other questions for me? Thank you. Okay. Where are we at here? Special reports. Oh, right. Budget committee. Dan. There's a lot in here. I'm not going to go through all the. One thing I can say is that people who were on budget committee last year, we made a lot of changes in how we do the budget, and I think it's made it a lot smoother this year. I had department heads emailing me and calling me saying, "When are you going to invite me back? When are you going to invite me back?" And I said, "We'll invite you back when it's needed." Well, I'm going to get everything I asked for. I didn't know at that point, but I think that with the narrative that we did, that big change in the narrative, I thought the committees did a great job this year understanding what the department heads were going to do. So it made it easier to make decisions. So when it came to budget, things were balanced. You know, we're not making those hard decisions. Obviously, it's a relatively good year because in government you make changes in 5 to 10 years ago, and you start to see the effect going forward. So in the last 4 years, we made some tough decisions, and now we're seeing, you know, good budgeting choices. So this year happened to be relatively easy, as Dan could say, right, Dan? So without going through, we had our one of the big things that we were working on the last couple of meetings was our fleet enterprise and how that plays out. It's a new way of us purchasing our cars, so we can replace our fleet more often. That's been a lot of work for the Treasurer's Office, it's been a lot of work for the committee, and you'll see in a resolution today that we're going to be putting in to purchase cars for the 2018. And in the budget, like I said before, there was 11 cars, and now we're doing 25 cars. And it helps us down the road. I looked at this years ago about how do counties manage their fleet. Well, the big counties have a fleet committee that goes through, made up of auto dealers, representatives, mechanics, and they do it themselves. Well, we don't have that ability, so we're looking out to do it on the outside. And so we'll be able to budget, and as we talked to budget committee, we're already looking out, what, 3 years? 3 to 5 years we're looking at a cost. So we're seeing that cost out ahead with replacing cars, which I never did in the last 4 years. So we'll know in a couple years how it works out, but right now we're replacing a lot more cars than we would have in our budget. We had 479,000.
$440,000.
$440,000
for 11 vehicles
right.
This year, whereas we're going to come in less than $150,000 get 25 vehicles.
Which means the $400,000, there's 2 years of payments in there, almost 3 years of payments on those vehicles.
Plus it reduces our maintenance costs.
Plus the maintenance costs, plus the energy efficiency and gas, and the safety. On top of that, the safety, which will ultimately come back in our insurance. We'll be looking at that. So there is a lot of savings. Other than that, there's been, DSS has been terrific in looking at their revenues and where they can cut. The sheriff did come in and ask for, to put back his part-time, and he made some, he took out something that he didn't think he think about for the training side, so we approved that. But Alan and Dan have done a great job, and the communication's been great. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them as best I can. Bill Mason, and they asked for a lot this year. We went back and said, you know, we're not going to cut your budget, but we're going to keep it, and they were happy with that, you know. And they did ask if a magical money comes up, could we buy in for it? And of course, we said, do your best, you know, go for it. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Now I'm here. I need a motion to dispense with the regarding of all reports and resolutions.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So we have the tax roll expense, town and county tax base, county equalization rates, true value, inside and outside valuation, and special valuations report that were presented.
Call for second on reports.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is there any representative wishing to remove a resolution from the consent agenda?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, number 312, please.
312?
You may have to get walked through this one by the county attorney, but it's my understanding that the numbers regarding the public safety and legal affairs were...
Well, you don't have to explain it now.
Okay, I don't have to? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I just
So I
want
have to
to
give us, that's it?
go through it.
That's it.
We have to. Okay, so should we move that? We need to call for action on the consent agenda.
Can we, all right. Need to call for action on the consent agenda?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, not even- all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
We need a roll call vote on the consent agenda.
Right. Okay. Sorry.
Frazier? Powers?
Aye.
Clark? Stammel?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Oberacker?
Aye.
Bliss?
Aye.
Marietta?
Yes.
McCarty?
Aye.
Wilbur?
Aye.
Koenig?
Aye.
Gelbsman?
Yes.
Carson?
Yes.
Stillogros?
Yes.
Hang on a second.
Love that sound.
Now you do all.
Total 6,228. Ayes are 5,235. Absent 993. Consent agenda passed.
Okay, go to the next page.
Which is this one?
No, all the way back.
Public hearing.
I know, they did three stuff. I actually, I'm waiting on me, so.
Roll call vote. Do we need a roll call vote?
No, not yet. Yeah.
312, yeah.
Resolution 312, transferring funds in various departments for 2017. Gelbsman, Frazier, Kennedy, McCarty, Kotnick. So you ask for a second.
Need a second? Sonny? Any discussion? Go ahead.
Okay, now I'll discuss. The information left the Public Safety and Legal Affairs Committee correctly. It was presented to the admin committee.
Which line are you talking about?
Oh, the line is a transfer in, does that,
Inmate board?
inmate jail, inmate boarding, 16,000. It might appear as 11,000, and sheriff's vest uniforms, 5,000. This is in the sheriff's department. That was the information that was presented to admin, and admin voted on that. Those numbers were not the correct numbers. The correct numbers for the line items are jail, inmate boarding, 16,000, and sheriff's vests uniforms does not appear in the correct version at all. So if you add up all the numbers, it comes out to be the same, but jail, inmate boarding should have been 16,000, not 11,000. And in the final version, line 31102610A, sheriff vest uniform should not appear at all.
Oh, that's all. They eliminated completely.
Correct.
Zero.
Yeah, or not there. Ellen, did I?
That's your motion, right?
Okay.
That's the motion. The motion I need a motion to amend.
I'll make it.
Second.
Roll call.
No, wait, hang on a second.
It's the roll call to accept the amendment.
Frazier? Powers? Clark? Stammel?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Overacker?
Aye.
Bliss?
Aye.
Marietta?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
Wilbur?
Aye.
Kotnick?
Aye.
Gelsman?
Yes.
Carson?
Yes.
Stillgross.
Yes.
Motion to amend passed. Resolution 312 as amended. Motion.
No, this
No.
is just a roll call.
Oh, roll call. Sorry.
Frazier? Powers?
Aye.
Clark? Stammel?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Overacker?
Aye.
Bliss?
Aye.
Marietta?
Yes.
McCarty?
Aye.
Wilbur?
Aye.
Kotnick?
Aye.
Gelsman?
Yes.
Carson?
Yes.
Stillgross.
Yes.
Yeah, we should.
Ayes 5,235, absent 993. Resolution 312 is amended.
Yep. Local Law E for 2017, a local law to establish Energize New York benefit financing program for Otsego County.
Need a second?
Second.
Held over for public hearing.
For the
Right.
public hearing only.
Public hearing vote. Held on for public hearing until December 6th, 2017.
Local Law F of 2017, County of Otsego, New York, a local law to amend local law number 2 of 1990, ethics law.
Need a second? Thank you, Andrew. Held over for public hearing on same date, December 6th, 2017. If there are no objections, the late resolutions A through E will be acted upon as presented. Motion.
Before we do this, could I like to call for a short executive session?
Second.
For Route 47-1F, matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, dispromotion, discipline, suspension, or dismissal, or removal of particular person or persons, corporation.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, no, I thought Bliss did, and then Stuart goes second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Where do we go?
We're going to do the executive session and the jury deliberation.
This way?
Yeah.
6 Normal Avenue, Oneonta, for a term of 1 year, because they have to be staggered. Michelle Canton of Oneonta, 2-year term, and Jack Henson of Cooperstown, 3-year term. Jack fulfills the requirement of a municipal employee. It's required that at least one municipal appointed or elected municipal employee is a member. The other 2 cannot be members, and they also cannot be more than 2 of the same political party. And obviously, no conflicts for the other people. Not only they, but their spouse or immediate family members cannot be members of any municipal, county, state, government, school level.
Glad you clarified that. Good.
Yeah.
Second.
I'd like to second that motion.
Well, any objection? I got to hold on a second. Any objection? Need a second? Discussion?
I would just like to say publicly, thanking Dave for following this all the way through to the fruition that we're at this point now to set up an ethics board for Otsego County.
Agreed. Thanks, Dave. Not easy to fill these positions, is it?
No, it's very difficult.
It's very difficult.
You would think it would
You've been
be
working
easy.
on it for a lot of months. I mean, I know.
You would think it would be easy, but it was very difficult. And a lot of people who were interested, once they got into it, said, no,
No.
I'm begging out, even at the last minute.
I understand. Believe me, I understand. Roll call vote.
You can do it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, Dave.
You have to do this? Wait, hold on a second. What's the resolution number?
I think 319.
Resolution 319 adopted unanimously.
Emphatically.
We're adjourned until 12/6/2017. Thank you.
Emphatically.